Hi everybody, welcome to Faith Walk. We are going to continue our study on Daniel. So today we're going to be doing Daniel 2. It is quite long, so I won't be reading it. It has 49 verses in there. So I might read pieces of it just to go through some of what's going on. But we're going to go over it in general. So we are in 602 BC, and this is in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. And the very first part of chapter 2 is called Nebuchadnezzar's dream. So Nebuchadnezzar has dreams that trouble him, and he summons his magicians, mediums, sorcerers, Chaldeans. And I look up at Chaldeans because that stands for, basically it's a general term for Babylonians, but also it refers to priests who serve as like astrologers, soothsayers, wise men, things like that. So he does call them in, and he wants them to not only interpret his dream, but he also wants them to tell him his dream. So I'm going to read verse 5, and starting from verse 5. The king replied to the Chaldeans, "The command from me is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be turned into a rubbish heap. But if you declare the dream and its interpretation, you will receive from me gifts and a reward and great honor. Therefore, declare to me the dream and its interpretation." So, of course, this is not possible for man to do. And they come back and actually do tell the king this information. So they answered the king, and this is verse 10. And said, "There is no person on earth who could declare this matter to the king, because no great king or ruler has ever asked anything like this of any soothsayer, priest, sorcerer, or Chaldean. Moreover, the thing which the king demands is difficult, and there is no one else who can declare it to the king except God's, whose dwelling place is not with mortal flesh." So they tell him right there that they can't do it. It's not possible, right? And he's not even sharing the dream with them. So it's not even just, an interpretation. But they're telling him that only a God can do that and not a man. So Nebuchadnezzar becomes very, very angry, and he orders all of them to be executed. Now, at the time, Daniel and his friends are considered, they're considered wise men as well. So this execution would also include Daniel. So we'll go to verse 14. Then Daniel replied with discretion and discernment to Arioch, the captain of the king's bodyguard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He said to Arioch, the king's officer, "For what reasons is the decree from the king so harsh?" Then Arioch informs Daniel of the matter. So Daniel went in and requested of the king that he would give him a grace period so that he might declare the interpretation to the king. So after that, he goes and talks to his three friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So when Daniel goes to his friends, he asks them to pray for him. So he says, "Pray for mercy from God concerning this mystery." I'm paraphrasing that. So he's asking them to pray, and he's asking for the mystery to be revealed to him by God. So that night, Daniel does get a vision, and the vision does give him the revealing of the dream. In the morning, he gets up and he blesses the God of heaven. So in verses 19 through 23, he says, "May the name of God be blessed forever and ever, for wisdom and power belong to him. It is he who changes the times and the periods. He removes kings and appoints kings. He gives wisdom to wise men and knowledge to people of understanding. It is he who reveals the profound and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. To you, God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and power. Even now you have made known to me what we requested of you, for you have made known to us the king's matter. So this is Daniel's song of praise, and it includes a few key ideas here. The first one is God is sovereign. He's sovereign over the political affairs of humanity. And the second thing is God alone can give revelation by giving wisdom to the wise and revealing the deep and hidden things. So the next part is that Daniel gets Arioch to take him to the king. So in 25, then Arioch hurriedly brought Daniel into the king's presence and spoke to him as follows. I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can make the interpretation known to the king. Now, he mentions that he has brought a man to interpret the dreams. Daniel, this is in verse 26, verse 27. Daniel answered before the king and said, as for the secret about which the king has inquired, neither wise men, sorcerers, soothsayers, priests, nor diviners are able to declare to the king. However, there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will take place in the latter days. He's saying again what was said earlier, which is only a God can do what you're asking to do. So the dream starts in verse 31, and we'll just read through some of that. You, O king, were watching, and behold, there was a single great statue. That statue, which was large and of extraordinary radiance, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was awesome. The head of the statue was made of fine gold, its chest and its arms of silver, its belly and its thighs of bronze, its leg of iron, and its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You continued watching until a stone was broken off without hands, and it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. So in doing some research about this is what I found. The head is the kingdom of Babylon. The chest and the arms are Medo-Persian Empire, which was 539 to 331 BC. Then the stomach and the thighs represented the Greek Empire, 331 to 146 BC. And the legs represented the Roman Empire, 146 BC to AD 1476. The feet, which were iron and clay, were the future continuation of the revival of Rome. Now, the stone that shatters the final kingdom, that's the kingdom of God. The only kingdom that will reign forever and ever is the kingdom of God. That was what I found on the meaning of the dream and the statue. So I found a really neat picture in my Bible. And this is my ESV study Bible. And it's actually a picture of the statue. So I thought that was really cool that they actually had a picture of it on here. And that's what they had. And it just says head of gold, chest and arms of silver, stomach and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, feet of iron and clay. I thought that was really neat. So I did use a couple of different Bibles and things to look, through all of these different pieces. The next section talks about the interpretation by Daniel. In verse 36 through 38, he talks about how God had given him power and authority over animals and people and all of those types of things. And so he says, God gave you all of these things. Then starting in verse 39, he talks about Medo-Persia and Greece. So he says, and after you, another kingdom will arise inferior to you, then another third kingdom of bronze will rule over all the earth. So then the next section is about Rome. So it says, then there will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron. Just as iron smashes and crushes everything, so like iron that crushes, it will smash and crush all these things. And in that you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. It will be a divided kingdom, but it will have within it some of the toughness of iron, since you saw the iron mixed with common clay. And just as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of pottery, so some of the kingdom will be strong, but part will be fragile. So Rome is strong as iron, but it's also going to be unstable. It's a composite of different people who won't be able to hold it together. So that was what he was referring to there. So in the next section, which starts with verse 44, this talks about the divine kingdom. So starting in 44, and in the days of those kings, the God of heaven will serve up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, and that kingdom will not be left for another people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, but it will itself endure forever. And of course, that is God's kingdom. God's kingdom fills the whole earth forever. The stone that will break in all the pieces, these other four kingdoms, is most likely Christ. So I looked that up, and they refer to the stone as Christ, because Christ comes back and he conquers all. And God is always in control. So that's what I found when I was doing some research on this. The next section is the end of the second chapter, and this is 46 through 49, and this talks about Daniel being promoted. So Nebuchadnezzar falls on his face and pays humble respect to Daniel and gives orders to present to him an offering and incense. The king responded to Daniel and said, "Your God truly is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, since you have been able to reveal this secret." Then the king promoted him and gave him many gifts. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon. So the king admits that God is among gods, but he doesn't admit that God is the only God. All right. And Daniel now can promote the peace and welfare of the city where God exiled them. This is all part of God's plan for Daniel. And there's lots of plans in here for Daniel. Chapter 3 is super interesting, so I hope that you will come back for that. And let me know your thoughts. And I hope you're enjoying the lesson here. And of course, as always, I'm not a scholar in any way. I'm just doing my research and trying to understand the Bible, same as you. So I look forward to any comments you might have, and I thank you for spending the time with me. Have a blessed day.